part of the Elves Network. We are a bunch of wild and crazy Cleveland Browns fans, bringing you all the latest in Browns news. Tune in now. Oh, yeah, we're still rocking. It's the Fanatical Elfz show. And yeah, I screwed up on the introduction, but this is the actual
host.
I know. Damn it. All right. We are the Fanatical Elfz. And boy, are you all in for a treat tonight. If you
Can
were
you say
tuning in,
damn it on the air?
well, I just did. So
All right.
I hope
I know he just did. So
so folks, we got everybody in the house minus the Browns blitz, Rod Bloom, but we have the Village Elliott. We are the Brady Bunch. We have Steve Gill, we have Sam Britton, and we have Joel Cade, all part of our network. And love that you're all here on this Thursday night. We have a huge game ahead of us against the Baltimore Ravens. Welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing this evening? Go around the room and introduce yourselves and welcome. Start with the left guard who's never here on Thursday nights.
Hi, I'm Joel. I'm a footballaholic.
Hi, Joel.
Hi.
Hi,
You guys
dear.
should listen to What the Elf Was That? It's a pretty good show, and I hear the Cleveland Browniacs are pretty good too. So check that stuff out.
Awesome stuff. Love it. Sam, how you doing over there in Dallas?
good. I'm chilling out. Still kind of happy that the Rangers won the World Series.
Congratulations.
I got to go
All
to the
right.
parade. It was a really bad parade. It was not very good.
Yeah.
I'm still. It's nice. It's cooler now. It's not 115 degrees every single day, so that's a big positive. I get to wear long sleeve clothes.
I bet baseball is awkward in Texas, isn't it? I mean, like,
No, we're better than the Astros. The Astros
like-
are awkward.
well, I think baseball as a whole is awkward in Texas. Like, they don't know what to do with
maybe.
baseball.
Well, I mean,
I know.
clearly we know how to win because we've won 3 World Series in the past.
Look at
5
that.
years.
Ooh.
Oh!
I
Oh!
like it. I like
I
it.
think Sam
Cheaters!
just brought the
Cheaters!
fastball.
Got the
Well, we
cheaters
can talk
going on
about
down there
cheating in the
Houston.
University of that state up north, but Steve
Oh.
Gill, how are
you
you?
really want to talk about that?
Uh,
I'm doing great.
yeah.
Yeah, still just still excited about the last Browns victory. I know a lot of people have been poo-pooing it because it was just the Arizona Cardinals, but it was still a quite of a defensive achievement if you really want to.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about
it really
that
was.
defense.
So
We have
and
a
we're
lot-
finally getting rain here in Nashville.
Oh.
We've been under a severe drought for a month, and we finally
wow.
get a little rain tonight. So
Oh, that's nice. Go
Yeah.
out. My it's funny. My wife is out in Kansas City today, and she's helping out at her job out there over the weekend. And she flew into Kansas, and I lived in Wichita for 26 years, and Sam, you probably know this down in Texas a little bit. It can be if it doesn't rain and whatnot, and it gets pretty dry and brown and ugly. And she was saying how when they flew into Kansas City, how there was no green, like it was all brown and dust. I said, yeah, that's pretty much par for the course when you get out to the prairie. But with that, hello, Village Elliott.
Hi there, Johnny. Well, I'm having a great time. By the way, as you well know, I started a new podcast called The Oracle Speaks, where I talk about football, what might happen in the future. And I usually try to back it up with numbers and analysis rather than just feelings like, oh, I think this team wants to win more than the other. I don't believe that. I usually want to have some numbers and some logical rationale why things are going to happen in the future. And that's why I'm right more often than other people.
Hey, Elliot, did you get a chance to apply for that nuclear waste internship in Piqua? I mean, we could really use you up here.
Well, I did look for stuff like that, but I didn't find that they were hiring anybody at the present time. I did apply at First Energy.
Okay. They got some
you know,
nuclear waste.
Yeah.
Well, they
That's
operate
more up
nuclear
north, though.
reactors. they operate nuclear reactors in the state of Ohio, and I believe I'm
They do.
qualified to do certain jobs in the nuclear industry.
Elliot, Village Elliot, I wanted to give you a little a promo here. If you wanted to share out, I know you've shared this out on your other shows this week about the Xenia Browns backers. You want to give people the info on that if they're listening?
That's right.
Yeah.
You can come to the BW3. They're opening a new restaurant in Xenia next to Walmart, and they're having their first party for the Browns versus Ravens game. So everybody in Southwest Ohio is invited. Just show up and have a good time, and I'm looking forward to it. So I'll see you.
That's great. And Steve, will you be at your Browns backers down there in Tennessee?
No, not this weekend.
Okay.
I only go like maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
Okay.
I prefer my own bathroom and my own refrigerator.
Right. Yes, you learn that as you get older. That's awesome.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
necessarily in that order.
So
No, not necessarily in that order. That is very true. It's usually a refrigerator bathroom.
So let's get into this talking this week. The Browns and the Ravens, the Ratbirds, are on tap. We are going to cover it a little bit more after the break. We'll go a little bit more in depth as far as where we're looking at positional battles. I know the Village Elliot has some graphics. We love the show, and I know you've shown them a little bit on the Brownie X and heard that with you and the left guard earlier today. But pretty quiet week all in all for the Brownies, and there are some injuries out there. Marquise Goodwin has a concussion. Anybody else out there that you've been hearing about? I know Jedrick Wills sounds like he's going to be out kind of long term, but could maybe make it back. Yeah, Steve?
Only 6 weeks.
Okay.
DeJuan Jones and David Bell practice on the side today. Pierre Strong, Greg Newsome, and David Njoku took part in practice today. So that's a good for Newsome.
Okay.
With Cam Mitchell also going on IR, which shocked me. And also Pierre Strong. Like to see a lot more of him.
Well, that's what I want to talk about first. So I know I've heard you guys talk about in the other shows, Pierre Strong, and I heard the left guard mention this on the Brownie X earlier today about how his image of, and Joel, if you want to elaborate on this, or Steve, or any of you, Pierre Strong, using Pierre Strong and Kareem Hunt as your 1-2 sort of backs, and then throwing in Jerome Ford, who's hot garbage, according to Joel, in the run game. So let's get into this, because I think we all agree. I think that Pierre Strong and many other fans beyond us are saying the same thing. We were thinking that maybe we'd see a little bit more of Pierre last week. We ended up not that much as maybe some had hoped or thought going into that game. Where do you think this is going to lead to in this Baltimore game, and just thoughts there? Let's start, Steve, with you, or Joel. I know you talked about Jerome as being hot garbage, and I tend to agree in some degree. So,
Steve, go ahead.
The metrics on Jerome Ford. He's the 4th least efficient running back in the NFL, and on time behind the line of scrimmage, he's number 1 at 3.15 seconds. You're not going to get very far in the NFL with that. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, right now he's jitterbugging and looking for the hole. I had an old NFL coach tell me once that college runs that a running back in college can get 15, 20 yards, but the same run in the NFL would be 2 to 3 yards. Because an NFL running back has to hit before the line opens. Look at Nick Chubb.
Right.
I mean, his vision is just outstanding.
Yeah.
And you see a little bit more of that with Pierre Strong. He's got Diet Coke, sponsored by Diet Coke.
Yeah, sponsored by Diet Coke.
He's got great vision and anticipation. That's why I want to see more of Pierre Strong.
We also want to promote Reese's Pieces right here. So, and thanks for following the Fanatical Elfz Network. We love our Reese's Pieces. Okay, back to the show.
What are you, Mike Myers? And
oh, I fell over.
Right? Okay. No, so that your take on that with Jerome Ford, I just love that analogy and the way you described that earlier on the What the Elf show, and then you talked a little bit about in the Browniacs about the old. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. I
For
mean, it hit me the other day that Jerome Ford is pretty much Isaiah Crowell 2.0, and I give him the upgraded 2.0, and I mentioned this somewhere. The upgraded
You did.
2.0 because I believe Jerome Ford is faster and is a better pass catcher than
And
Isaiah
smarter.
Crowell is. And smarter. I mean, Isaiah Crowell, I'm just going to leave it there. So
Right.
the issue with Jerome Ford, and I'm shocked at this stat. I've got to pull it up, the least efficient running backs. I was shocked that the NFL found, or PFF found 3 other running backs less efficient than Jerome Ford.
Yeah, I am too.
Like, where did you find these people? The issue I had with Jerome Ford is the exact same issue I had with Isaiah Crowell. It's that it's not the pin and pulls. It's not the defined running through the 2-hole, 4-hole, 6-hole, whatever that is. If he knows exactly where he's running the ball and gets a 3-yard head start because he's lined up 7 yards off the line of scrimmage, he can be fantastic. Okay, we saw that in Indianapolis, the power off tackle that he took for the touchdown. Okay, that's the good part of Jerome Ford. The bad part of Jerome Ford is that he plays the outside zone like he's a 6th grader in my Pee Wee football league. I mean, you like Steve said, the holes are not what you think they are in college. Okay, you're gonna have to anticipate the hole, see it going on, and then hit the hole.
Right.
He's not seeing the hole. Either he's not looking in the right place or he's not seeing the hole. And when he doesn't see the hole or doesn't feel comfortable with the hole, he tries to run around his blocks, which is a stupid idea because once you run around an offensive lineman, all you have left is a defensive lineman to tackle you. And he's running backward to do it. So that equates for the time behind the line of scrimmage, all this kind of stuff, which leads to when you give him the ball on first down, 2nd and 15. Which we saw 3 or 4 times.
That has happened so many times.
It's just completely wrong-headed to give him the ball on an outside zone play. You're just asking for a negative play.
Now, Sam, you were talking to Joel off air or in text earlier today. You want to counter any of that because the left guard can kind of come at it strong, with that opinion.
Hey, we're on podcast, man. We got to make it. We got to get people reason to listen.
And then Village Elliott, you can be the heir of reason here in a minute. Sam,
I would do battle with my colleague.
Sam, what's up?
I agree somewhat. Yes, he is pretty inefficient, but he's strong, and I think that's something that is very helpful. I think even if the hole does start to close on him, he is capable of kind of shedding a tackle and continuing to push. And I think the strength is something that is very helpful with him, is that he is capable of, even if he finds the hole a little late or is a bit slow, he's capable of still pushing for an extra yard or 2 because of his strength.
Sam, I remember the play against San Francisco late in that game, the 49ers when the Browns were driving to get that go-ahead field goal. There was a really nice run that kind of I'm thinking of from him that he took 15, 17 yards. It was a nice, blocking scheme for the Browns, and it really put the Browns in a really excellent position then just to kick the chip shot, field goal at that point. But we see some of these longer runs from Jerome, like you were going back to Joel, and then you see these runs where he runs sideways and you're like, what the hell? Just go find the lane and go find that gap and push. And like Steve, you and I have talked about, we were, I don't know if it was you that were talking about this, but with Kareem Hunt, that, Kareem's just always moving forward. And he's always getting that extra yard or 2. And I think, Joel, you even said in your podcast, he falls forward. And I think, that's where we really miss Nick. But we're not going to see Nick, but still this Browns running game is doing pretty decently considering, and I went back and looked at all the games and how many rushing yards that they've had individually as a group. I mean, they're regularly 150 to 160 yards.
Somewhere in there,
yeah. Sam, what do you think? Do you think this idea of how the Browns use the running backs, how would you like to see it?
Well,
Like,
kind of chatted about it in my podcast yesterday, and I think they are handling it pretty well. I think Jerome Ford is doing his job pretty well. I think Kareem Hunt has also, I mean, last year Kareem Hunt was not very good, and I think this year
yeah,
now he's definitely shown that he still has something left in the tank, and
yeah.
I think the way they're handling it is pretty good. I do think I wish we could see Strong a little bit more, Pierre, a little bit more. I think he is a talented running back who has a future, but I
Mm-hmm.
think right now, but like I said in my podcast, there's a very finite amount of running back snaps in general, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very rare that the third running back is getting any sort of significant amount of running back snaps.
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Mm-hmm.
think if he can manage to prove himself and move up maybe to the two, maybe when Hunt leaves or something, I think that is when he will
Yeah.
really start to show how good he can actually be.
Yeah, because that's a good point because Cream's probably gonna like be gone. I mean, unless there's
Yeah.
I think that's a good observation there. Very good. Village Elliott, where you stand with all of this? You've heard all these other takes.
Well, yeah, first of all, I want to say this, that I was whining all off season that the Browns did not have a running back room. And by that, I mean that the running back room consists of 4 running backs. And, basically I lost every argument. One of the more famous writers whose name I won't mention saying, well, look, they've got Nick Chubb.
Me? Are you talking about me?
Oh,
not
no,
you,
no,
not
no. I
you,
know who
not
he's talking
nobody in
about.
this room. Now, don't make me identify who it is. Out of politeness, I'm not identifying who it is. But they have Nick Chubb, and we know that Jerome Ford is a good athlete because he did a really fine job on kick returns for the Browns last season. And I agreed with that, but I said kick returns is not the same as running the ball out of the backfield. And even if it is, those are only 2 bodies. You need to have 4. So anyway, I was unhappy that the Browns were neglecting the possibility of injury to either of those 2 individuals. You need to have 4 people. And, it turns out that there are some problems with Jerome Ford, but overall he's done, what do you expect from a backup? He's not a number 1 running back. And he has had problems, but he has done enough that he's on a trajectory that would take him to 1,000 yards from scrimmage by the end of the season. That's not terrible. One other thing I want to mention, though, is that Dearness Johnson did kind of the same thing, except that what we gave credit to Dearness Johnson for said, oh, look at Dearness Johnson is really using his blockers well. He's a very patient runner, very intelligent runner, and the Browns line is opening up holes, and he's then running through them. I'm not saying that that's what's going on all the time with Jerome Ford, but I think there is some possibility that that's part of his motivation. The problem is that the Browns' offensive line is not opening up as many holes as Dearness Johnson got.
Well, let me ask you that.
Part of that is being caught by the Browns coaching staff.
Well, let me ask you specifically about that, because what was so funny to me when I was at the game on Sunday, when we're talking about the garbage stuff, Joel, you were mentioning about Jerome Ford. Here's what I'm getting at. On that specific play where Jerome Ford, we all can maybe think back about it, where he ran basically sideways and he couldn't get a hole, right? That was like it was in the second half, as I recall. And I remember where I was sitting in the stands, I was pissed off with Jerome Ford saying, gosh, and right as that happened, the guys in front of me were like, oh, that's the offensive line's fault. And then right after that, Joel texts right after that play and says, oh, Jerome Ford's hot garbage. It was just so funny because it's like you had 2 contrary on the same play. I had these knuckleheads in front of me saying, oh, that's the line. And I'm like, it's the line because Jerome Ford can't make a decision and the line, had it. But so I guess that's where, how much is it then? And like Elliot, is that on the line? I mean, I don't.
It's not. It's not on the line when he does stuff like where he attempts to actually reverse his field. The problem that he had perhaps is that early in the season, he actually reversed his field in a college style run. And I think he had a 79-yard run or something like that. And it actually worked. It never works in the NFL, but in this particular case, it did work. And I think it put in his mind that, I can reverse my field and, reel off a long run. And that sort of taught him the wrong way. And, it's not going to work like that in the NFL, dude. And I think he's kind of finding that out. But there are things that he needs to be taught. He needs to learn. I don't know if I think that he's hot garbage, but he does have some bad habits that need to be corrected. And I think what he wants to do is to use his offensive line correctly, and he's not really getting it at this point. But this is his first year as an NFL running back. Last season, you'll recall, he only had like 6 carries for 12 yards or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah. Let me let's change some gears here, because I know we're gonna spin in with Jerome. Hopefully he'll have a good game, and hopefully Pierre Strong will get some more time. I want to talk a little bit about.
Pierre has done better, and he should get a chance to play. He hasn't done anything wrong.
Let's talk a little bit about I want to specifically talk a little bit about the defense, but more Myles Garrett, because earlier in the week I was watching some little takes on ESPN and some of the other NFL network, and they were doing some of these silly mid-year things about MVPs, for the NFL. And there were all these people talking about various players. They were even talking about CJ Stroud in the mix. But one of the guys picked, TJ Watt. There was no discussion of Myles Garrett. And I just wanted kind of everyone's takes right now, because there's been a lot of conversation about Myles, and most of it's been really positive, and how he seems to be like really buying into this whole team concept, and even recognizing and not getting sold on plays, and getting smarter even as a player as he's aged. Your takes on Myles? I don't know if I consider him an MVP of the NFL, but I always think that he gets slighted. TJ Watt is just a nice name. People like to throw him around and say, "Oh, he's great," but I like Myles Garrett on my team. So, just your takes. And do you think Myles should be in the conversation at this point, midway through, as being an MVP candidate, or is that just unrealistic? Anybody want to start? Yes, go.
All right. So, Elliot knows, because we've been talking about Myles Garrett for a while, this whole entire offseason. He has been a very athletic player. And when he was coming out of the draft, my concern was that he was going to come into the NFL and just try to use his athleticism to beat up on people like he has in high school and college. And that's pretty much what he's done under Greg Williams, under Joe Woods. It's just kind of come out and said, "I'm Myles Garrett, stop me." Now, this year, we've seen a different Myles Garrett. He's been able to think a little bit about what's on the field. I think one point he answered a question to Mary Kay Cabot was that he was more logical about the way he was doing things. And one play in particular stands out. I think it was this past week where he rushed right past an offensive tackle. Now, the normal past Myles Garrett would have just ran right at the quarterback. The quarterback throws the ball over his head. They get the screenplay, 15 yards, right? This time, Myles Garrett stops because something triggered in his head, like, "Oh, that was too easy. Something else is happening here, not just me rushing the passer." He stands there, waits for the ball to get thrown, jumps up, knocks it down, end of play. That's the difference between past Myles Garrett and this year's Myles Garrett. He also is doing what I call the Michael Jordan effect. When Michael Jordan was young in the league, he'd try to sit there and do it all by himself. He'd go in there and run to the basket like LeBron James and all these NBA players do nowadays.
Yeah.
But then Michael Jordan figured out that if I play in the triangle offense and pass the ball and set teammates up, then we all succeed. And I think part of Myles Garrett's success running around the edge and doing his pass rushing is he's now learning that the quarterback will step up, and then somebody like
Shelby Harris,
Delvin Tomlinson Sunday
is going to get some sacks. Going to get some sacks because now they're playing as a unit and not the Myles Garrett show. That's what that looks like.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I just, Steve or Sam, any thoughts?
Let me finish that up.
Yeah.
to say yes to the answer is he's now elevating the play of everyone else around him on a defense.
Absolutely.
And because he's elevating the defensive line, that elevates the defensive backfield because now they're getting more opportunities at TID passes, air passes, things like that. So he is elevating that entire defense.
Absolutely.
So MVP candidate, yes. Defensive player of the year candidate, yes. Is it
Okay.
a numbers game? Can we blitz to the left side and force the quarterback to roll out right so Myles Garrett can pick up the trash? No, that's not what's going on.
Okay. That's what they do in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Steve?
A little early for this kind of stuff. I know I hate it when they do it. Defensive player of the year. Yeah, sure. I think he's definitely a candidate for that. MVP. I wish he was. He definitely deserves it. He would have to just go on a tear here for the rest of the season for him to win that. But yeah, he deserves to be mentioned.
Sam, what are your takes on Myles?
The fact that Myles Garrett is still getting better is a scary thought. The fact that he can still get better.
Yeah.
The thing about most valuable player, I don't think he's going to win it unless he goes crazy. The thing about it is it's most valuable. It's always going to be either a quarterback or it's going to be always be a quarterback because they are the most valuable position. So I don't think he's going to win MVP. I think he might get considered. He might get a few votes maybe. But I think the whole quarterback and it being the most important position is kind of going to make that tough. But I think he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year if he continues this.
Yeah. Elliot?
Well, first of all, I've got nothing bad to say about TJ Watt. If people want to talk about giving awards to him, I have no problem with that. I don't really get into, the off-season awards and stuff. To me, it's more about winning football games at this point. And then at the end of the season,
well, if you don't care, then we should just give it to Myles, man. Okay, back to you.
Well, of course, but I really think that these discussions are very premature.
Sure,
but I think that I agree that it's unlikely that a defensive player will ever get the MVP award, and I think Defensive Player of the Year is a much more realistic possibility. And I think that Myles and TJ Watt and Micah Parsons and maybe a few others will all get very high consideration for those awards. And they shouldn't be thinking about them. We can talk about it if we want.
Yeah,
notice how Myles Garrett has not been talking about awards this year as opposed to last year.
Yeah, I a couple things. Just before we go, we're going to pause here for a break on the Fanatical Elfz show here, but I do want to, see we're talking about CJ. Just mentioned CJ Stroud. I haven't looked at his stats specifically, but I saw something today, like 20 touchdowns and 1 interception or something so far. Like, dude, that's fantastic. Like when he was at Ohio State, I was like, I thought he was pretty good, but he made some mistakes at Ohio State. And right now he's got the Houston Texans, a 4-4 team, and they're going to be a tough out when the Browns play them later this season. They play him in Houston in December.
Yeah, I know.
That game in Houston is going to be a little different than it was last year when Deshaun Watson made his return to the NFL in Houston. And we got bailed out by DPJ running back a punt return to spark the Browns in that game. That's going to be a really interesting game.
We got bailed out. Actually, we got bailed out by Tony Fields, but it's neither here
nor there. Yeah.
It's too bad. It's too bad we didn't get the Texans the first game of the season and CJ Stroud's first start.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Ravens.
Yeah. Well, let's pause for a break, and we're going to come back and talk all about the Ravens, those damn Ratbirds. We'll be right back. This is the Fanatical Elfz Show. And we're back. We're back on the Fanatical Elfz Show. Do you like those commercials? I want to again say, fans and those of you who are watching us. Oh, somebody changed their background. Where did that come from?
I'm messing with it.
Look at you. I like it. So, we've been talking off air in our group here, and most of the guys are here, and Rod Bloom does his Browns Blitz also with his brother Jeff. We can't thank enough to all the people that are listening, that follow us, that watch us on either the Twitter here or on YouTube, or download us on Apple or Spotify. We started this project back in April. We've been at it for 7 months now, and our downloads are going berserk, and that thanks to the Oracle Speaks. It's thanks to the What the Elf Was That. It thanks to the Dog Pound South show. It's thanks to Sam and his Browns breakdowns, and the Browns Blitz, and the Johnny Cleveland show, and the Browns Rockin' show. We got all these shows. We're trying to bring that to you every week, and we got a lot going into this Ratbirds game. Let's just start with the fact that the Browns are, I think, 6-point underdogs going into this game. They got pretty much toasted, but there's reasons for that. And I know, like Joel, you talked about it in your show a little bit about the key plays and the keying in on, how the Browns were on defense, were overreactive to some of that, which caused some of these things in that first game. So the Browns go into Baltimore. It's going to be an uphill battle. They're already underdogs. When you start looking at all the projections by all the people on the national networks, no one's given us a chance. I think we definitely have a chance. I think that even that game against Baltimore that we originally played, we threw out DTR out there, and we'll have Deshaun back. And I think it's going to be a great game. Anxious to hear what your takes are initially. Let's just kind of go around the room. Let's start, Steve, with you. Kind of go around the room, and then we'll get into Elliot's. Maybe we'll talk to Steve, Sam, and the left guard, and then maybe we can show your graphics then, the Village Elliot, if you want to do that after that. So, Steve, where are you at right now with this game on Sunday?
Well, I think the first game was a little bit of a little weird.
Yeah.
Considering that DTR was thrown out there after finding out he was going to start, hour and a half, 2 hours before the game.
Mm-hmm.
You look at that game, did the Ravens really beat up on us? Well, they only had, I think, 294 total yards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Browns on 7 of their 12 possessions forced them to 3 and out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got 14 points off of turnovers. I mean,
Right.
the first 2 possessions were 3 and out. Then DTR throws an interception, and play later, it's 7-0 Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, they are playing extremely well. But I heard a reporter from Baltimore who covers them today on a radio program, and he didn't sound like they were some kind of juggernaut. He was like, well, you never know what you're going to get. 1 week it's this, and 1 week it's that. And, you watch them play, and you don't feel comfortable with the way they're playing. And so, everybody has crowned them already. And
Mm-hmm.
I've got a weird little tidbit stat that I found.
Oh boy, I like your weird.
Since the 1970 merger,
Okay.
the Browns have the number 1 defense, and the Ravens have the number 2 defense.
So
When
basically,
those
the Browns have the number 1 defense.
Yes, they do. The weird stat is the number 1 defense, when it plays the number 2 defense, is 11-1 since 1970. So I'm
that's
going
not
with
good.
that.
Is that not good? Is that good for? Wait, we're the number 1 defense.
That's
and
good.
Ravens
We're the number 1 defense or the number 2. Since 1970, when the number 1 defense faces the number 2 defense, the number 1 defense in the league is 11-1. So
Now,
I'm
it's not
going
as-
with that.
I like that
the
stat.
hill
That's-
I'm going to die on.
That's not as good as the one you gave us the week when they played the 49ers, when you said that Jim Schwartz was like 10-1 against the 49ers head coach, which that gave me a lot more promise. But
Hey, 11-1. Come on.
yeah, Sam, let's hear, what are your takes on the Ravens these days?
They're a good team. They're a very, very good team. But I think we do have a chance. I think the Browns defense is good enough that it can limit the people like Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews and all the players that other teams have not been able to limit. I think it's the offense. I think especially considering the Ravens have a really, really good defense, if this offense can't, because this whole year they have not been very consistent on actually doing very well. And so if this offense can actually figure itself out, I think we definitely have a chance. But if we have another lackluster game from Watson or something like that, I think it's going to be an uphill battle.
Jerome
I
Ford.
was looking at statistics of some of the Browns offensive players like David Njoku and Amari Cooper. And I'm writing a little article on Amari today. And the kid, that guy, Mr. Cooper, has been such a solid professional and just goes about his business, and just had a fantastic couple plays last week with Deshaun Watson. And he's going to have another great season, another year where just he's helped this team out. And considering we've lost Nick Chubb, considering we lost Jack Conklin, considering that kid and some of the other guys have continued to play tough. So Joel, you and the Ravens, your Ravens hate. We love your Ravens hate on the What the Elf show.
I got a lot of Ravens hate to go around here. I think everybody stole most of my thunder, but I really think the key here is just to move the football. I mean, I'm going to echo what Samuel says. Move the football. And if you can get somebody to move the football, then you're going to be okay, because that keeps your defense off the field and it keeps them fresh. This is literally what the Ravens are doing right now, because their offense is, I'm going to use the term again, their offense is close to hot garbage. It really is. It has the virtue of not having been seen by the NFC, which helps them a lot. That's how they can go beat up on NFC teams. And, they're air raid beginning of the year. Now they're back to just running the football.
Right. I heard
they don't know what they're going to be doing.
Yeah.
It's very much a Jekyll and Hyde situation. So
how are we the Browns then? Tell me, in your opinion, you guys, and Elliot, we're going to come to you here in just a minute. My question though is, how do you get the Browns offense, Sam and everybody that tell me, how do we get the Browns offense to move the ball in this game on Sunday?
Well, I'll
stay out of 2nd and 7s and 3rd and 7s.
So don't
you got to convert.
Or second and Joel's going to say, don't give Jerome Ford the ball.
I already said it.
Exactly.
I already said it.
I was going to say
ideally,
it
if you're going to be on 3rd down, let's hope it's 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1. I mean, but you got to convert. You got to hold on to the ball. No turnovers. Work the clock. Mix up the run with the short pass, with the occasional deep bomb to Amari Cooper. Quick slant. You can do. The screenplay has been working well. I don't know how it's going to work against Baltimore. Their 2 middle linebackers are the best in the league, but we'll find out.
I think the biggest key for the Browns offense is to change all of their signals.
Oh, okay.
When you got one Harbaugh doing it, who says it's not the other one? I mean, my God, what was it like to grow up in that house? Like, both of them have the same
bunch of cheaters, damn cheaters. That's what they are. A bunch of damn cheaters.
They have the same mentality to officials. If you go out there, break every rule, and as soon as you get caught, you scream, yell, holler, throw a fit, like you're red in the face, until you get to these officials to not call these penalties on you, so you can pretty much just cheat your way through the game. Like, what's it like growing up in that house? Like, if every time one of these kids gets in trouble, they just stand there and argue with you. I mean, I couldn't be this kid's dad. I'd probably slap one of them. I mean, I'm just saying. Like, stop arguing.
Game nights must have been a hell of a good time. I tell you.
We didn't have game nights at our house, so I'm just going to put that out there.
Sam, you look like you want to say something. Elliot, we're coming to you here in a minute.
A little. Watson needs to make smarter passes. I feel like he occasionally makes these really dumb passes. Occasionally he'll.
You mean like the reverse to Elijah Moore several weeks ago before he got injured?
Kevin Stefanski's fault.
Oh no! That was all on Deshaun Watson.
Kidding.
That one where he turned around and he tried to throw the ball backwards to Elijah Moore.
Was not.
That was the boneheaded play of the year for Deshaun.
That was the Tennessee game. I think things worked out all right.
Yeah. Okay, Sam. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No.
Okay,
it's
Sam.
Yeah. I think occasionally Deshaun will just. I think it was against the 49ers where he rolled out to the left and then threw the ball and it went like 15 yards and got intercepted. Plays like that where it's pretty clear that, or maybe it was the Colts game. I don't remember exactly. But it's plays like that where it's clear no one's open and he decides to throw the ball crossbody, like 10 yards and it gets intercepted instead of just throwing it out of bounds. It's just a loss of downs and you just move on to the next play.
Yeah. You'd think that he'd be smarter because he's a veteran. He's been around the league for a while, but then, you just make some of these decisions. The kid's still young. He's in his, all these guys are, mid-20s, 20, and so I got to give him, sometimes it's just immaturity and just being stupid, but, or just being dumb and not really like knowing or playing the game the way that they know that they should. It's kind of a lack of focus. You see it at all the levels of sports. I coach and, at different levels, middle school, high school, see it at college, Joel, you've played college sports and, there's times where, players will lose their focus and that's where the mistakes happen. And if players and coaches are, you're not practicing hard and staying focused in practices, that carries over to games. I mean, Johnny Manziel, this guy didn't even read a freaking playbook, and he just go out there on Sunday after partying in Vegas and try to play in the NFL. It was crazy. It kind of worked, but anyway. Elliot, how you doing up there?
Oh, well, it's been a great discussion. I generally agree with what Sam had to say. I think that the Ravens do have problems on offense. I think if you look at their stats, they don't have anybody that's headed towards a 1,000-yard season, either receiving the ball or running the ball. There's too much dependence on Lamar Jackson. That's not an offense where you just depend upon the quarterback to be Superman every week and bail them out of trouble. And that's really what the Baltimore writers are complaining about, is that they're depending on Lamar Jackson to run the ball, Lamar Jackson to throw the ball. They have really Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews are their main receiving threats. And after that, it's pretty thin. Now, the Browns have the same problem as you guys were alluding to, that Amari Cooper is the super wide receiver that comes through week after week after week after week. And after that, it's pretty dicey about who they're going to go to. We do have, what I said previously, I really take back. I said that, look, we've got no choice. We've got to go to multiple wide receiver sets because we just don't have a running game. But now I think, I think Stefanski's offense is really a possible way out for us, where they use the 3 tight end formation. They got DeJuan Jones, who weighs 370 pounds.
Man, I love DeJuan Jones, man. I love him playing this year.
They got the 370-pound guy, and then they put the backup center as another extra tight end, and then they have another tight end. And then they have Ford run behind that. And if he actually runs behind the 3 tight ends instead of running backwards, then he can make yards. And so the question is, okay, Baltimore, what are you going to do to stop it? Now, Baltimore can run the same play because they also have a very big fullback that they can run, and they also know how to run the 3 tight end offense. So I think you're going to see a lot of that power football mentality express itself on the field on Sunday. And it's going to be like 1970s football.
Odell Beckham, OBJ. I want to know what your thoughts are on OBJ, because
Odell's doing better. He's doing better than the last time we saw him.
That's what I was going to mention to you, because you mentioned that on your other show.
He was being neglected by Lamar Jackson the first few games. He was not getting very many targets. What's happening now is that he's not on the field that often, but when he is on the field, like he's got like a 50% duty cycle or something, but Lamar is targeting him now, and he is catching the ball. So he is a receiving threat when he's on the field, but I don't think that the Ravens feel that they can put him on the field for like 80% of the snaps. But he is a larger threat than I thought that he might be. But he's also very his style of, he likes to freelance, just like Johnny Manziel used to like to freelance as the quarterback, and Lamar Jackson likes to do that too.
Yeah.
And those styles are reasonably compatible.
Yeah.
So,
I
like pick
think
up
it's
basketball.
gonna be, yeah. Do you all expect it to be a high scoring affair or a low scoring affair?
I laugh in your general direction.
You
Man, this is the NFL. You never know what's going to happen.
right.
I
You never
exactly.
know.
You see games come out with top 2 defenses, and they're putting up 50 points between the two of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
you just don't know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
No,
I
I
would
thought it was interesting. I know
anticipate.
some people were projecting last week that the Browns were going to have this run. The score was going to be like they're going to get 40 points. I know it ended up being 27-0, but that score was 0-0 for a good chunk of the first half. And it really wasn't that high powered. And I know, Sam, you've even talked about on your show about how the offense for the Browns has really struggled. I think you were breaking that down the other day. And when I listened to you, where do you see the Brown? What do you like, Sam, with this offense and stuff? Do you think that, do you expect it to be the same, or do you think the Browns have a better shot this week? I mean, because Baltimore does have a really good defense.
Yeah, I think the Baltimore defense is going to give us some struggles. I do think, especially with the talent we have on the team. I mean, I'm going to annoy Jerome Ford, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, all these players on there. I think it just relies really on Deshaun Watson on how he can play. I feel like we have the talent to beat basically anyone, but with just how our quarterback hasn't. Our quarterback room hasn't been very consistent. I think that's what's holding us back.
I like that take, and because it kind of goes into like the Village Elliott when you mentioned last week in the show about this Browns team. We're talking about it, but as long as this team has a solid defense, it could be a championship team. It's when you have that defense that can bring it, and like they've been doing. I was pretty harsh on them in my article last week on Northeast Ohio Sports Insiders, talking about, in crunch time. They didn't need crunch time last week because they just dominated the dreary Cardinals so badly. But Browns should be in it, like you said. Let's just switch gears. Final question.
Can I add one more thing on that?
Yep.
Every year the Browns play the Ravens, you should always be looking for that backside power because their defense is susceptible to the backside power. And if there's only one thing that Jerome Ford does well is he runs those defined holes, pin and pull plays. And if you can run one or two to the backside against the weak side of the defense, the Browns have traditionally been able to beat
Nick
them
Chubb,
up that way.
Think about some of those runs that Nick has done. Yeah.
And most of those are coming on that weak side power.
Well, and
right?
that game they played on that Monday night during COVID, I was up there at the Cleveland Stadium, freezing cold December. That was a fantastic game, back and forth. Kareem Hunt. Who was gonna be the final to score in that game, but there was a lot of offense in that one. AFC North, just in general, we've all talked about it this week. If the playoffs started today, all 4 teams from the AFC North would make it into the playoffs. And want to just get everyone's thoughts on that. Do you think that's realistic, Steve? I know we talked about this a little bit last week. Let's start with you first. It's kind of cool. Do you think that the Browns can be one of those playoff teams? And do you see any of the other AFC North teams not getting there with the Browns, or do you think the Browns will get there to the playoffs?
I think they'll get to the playoffs. I don't think all 4 will make it. 3 is a possibility. The Browns could make it because right now their floor is their defense. Their ceiling is how well Deshaun Watson continues to play. And against Baltimore, if so far this season, when they're inside the 5-yard line, he's 3 for 3 with 3 touchdowns. When they're in the red zone, he's 8 of 9 with 5 touchdowns. So get him in the red zone, and we're going to score touchdowns. So he's just got to get his timing and his feet just a little better. he holds onto the ball a little bit too long. That's come along with a rustiness, and he's got to look for that third wide receiver. I mean, against the Cardinals, 9 of his 19 completions went to Njoku and Amari Cooper.
Yes.
That's great, but you got to have a third or fourth option.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think with this defense, I think they can make the playoffs. We'll see what Baltimore does. Cincinnati's on a hot roll right now, but they're going to have some tough games here coming up. Pittsburgh, I just don't know how the hell they are the luckiest team in the.
Well, I think if you ask
NFL,
Pittsburgh fans on the Fanatical on the network,
a month ago they wanted to fire Mike Tomlin and trade Little Hands Kenny Pickett.
They still want to. They're still unhappy. They want to go undefeated every year, or they want to fire Tomlin.
Do you think this hothead over there in Pittsburgh, not Pickett, but is it Pickens or Pickett, the wide receiver?
Yeah,
I mean, that kid is just a hot mess, man. Like
what do you expect from a guy from Georgia?
No, who was the last wide receiver? He was a hot mess in Georgia. I mean, the kid is just.
I know.
I'm glad the Browns didn't pick him up. It's just annoying when you see these players in the NFL. And I'll give you another one. And I don't know what you're. Well, no. Here's the other one that just annoys the hell out of me. And he gets a lot of credit because he's supposed to be such a, professor or guy that. What's the kid's name? He played for the Chiefs and now he's with Miami.
Oh, Hill.
Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, if you listen to any of his stuff or follow any of his stuff on social media, he's just a jerk. I mean, the guy is just a waste of, like, if he were playing football, I don't even want to, he would have, I don't know what he'd be doing if he weren't playing football.
Boys in the hood, baby. Boys in the hood.
Well, I mean, it's just like I've never and what really annoys me is you have coaches like Andy Reid who are, talking positively about this guy. And I'm sorry, I don't know Andy Reid and I'm sure Andy Reid's a great coach. I mean, obviously he's championships and all this stuff, but I don't know, just in my personal, just watching things that I've seen Tyreek spew from his mouth, I'm like, how can a coach like that I just don't respect Andy Reid for the fact that he's talking so positively about a guy. Does Andy Reid not see social media and see some of the crap that these guys, I mean, I'm sorry that I'm old school and it just annoys the hell out of me that these players get.
Doesn't Andy Reid have a Super Bowl ring?
Well, yeah, I know that. But he does, but that doesn't mean that he has any.
Yes, it does.
It does, but it's also what is he
getting paid for? Is he getting paid?
It does, but it's annoying that these guys are out there.
Juvenile delinquents are winning Super Bowls. I think
they're positively promoting these guys who off the field are knuckleheads. And I just think that's just a bad.
As long as he doesn't get massages, he's okay.
I'm okay with that.
I will say though, about the Pittsburgh wide receivers.
Talking about rubbing somebody the wrong way.
Talking about wide receivers for a second in Pittsburgh. Who was the last good Pittsburgh wide receiver that just wasn't off the rocker?
A complete jerk.
Like totally off their rocker.
Yeah, no,
they're like four deep now.
What about Johnson?
Deep there.
What Johnson? Does anybody know about that? What is it? Deontay Johnson? Seems like it. I mean, he caught a touchdown pass for the first time in God knows who long. Remember?
Like I said, when was the last good Pittsburgh wide receiver that wasn't just off the wall?
Deontay Stalwart and Lynn Swan. Yeah, that's
okay. So we're going back 50 years. We're going back 50 years for this.
Yeah, that's about right.
That sounds about right. You got to go back 50 years before you find the last Pittsburgh wide receiver that was good. That was not a complete basket case.
Yeah,
there's something in the water over there in Pittsburgh where they're wide receivers because people come out
too much lead.
I mean, Chase Claypool. Let's talk about Chase Claypool for a second. Good kid at Notre Dame. Did what he was supposed to do. Wasn't that great of a football player, but he got drafted, right? And he's got talent. He goes to Pittsburgh. I don't know what the heck happened to that kid. He just turned into like what would happen to him? There's something going on in that wide receiver room in Pittsburgh, man. Bad juju.
All right, final takes.
Speaking of juju,
Sam, you got something to add there? It looked like you were about ready to say something.
Not really. I think this is definitely a winnable game. I think we definitely have a chance.
Yep, absolutely.
I think there's things that can go right. I think there's obviously things that can go wrong, but I don't think the Ravens are an unbeatable team. I
Yeah.
don't think that they are a team that you just can't beat. They might be a complete team and might have some skill on both sides, but I don't think they can't be beaten.
I got to give credit too to Kevin Stefanski. I have not. I know Joel, the left guard,
It's
has
the big
been-
one. It's the big one.
and Steve, you've been reminding me how much I'm supposed to hate Mr. Kevin Stefanski, a steady Eddie. But honest, I mean,
Steady
truly,
Eddie.
the guy, he has, even every one of you has mentioned this about Kevin, and I'm just going on what I remember. Joel, you even talked about David Njoku on your show with Elliot earlier today on the Browniacs about how David Njoku is being used by Kevin Stefanski and how David Njoku has learned how to block and do these things, and how Kevin Stefanski, or at some point, somebody on his coaching staff got to David and said, hey, if you want to get open, you got to learn how to block. And I just, Kevin Stefanski, and I think I'm going to give him some credit here going into this game against Baltimore. You think about it, really think about it. Go back to 2020, right? 2020, first game for Kevin Stefanski. What happened? He got blown out in Baltimore. Comes back, like Steve, you've mentioned, short week on
4
a
days
Thursday
later.
night. They beat up the Cincinnati Bengals on a Thursday night game. But that progression from then to now, obviously Kevin Stefanski has aged immensely in 4 years. He doesn't have his nice dark beard. It's now gray. But he's working it, and he's helping this team, and he's got a coaching staff like Jim Schwartz as his defensive coordinator that are really, I mean, you can kind of get a sense like, I think this is something good. And I don't see this game coming up on Sunday being anything like it was several weeks ago when we lost. And even that game, even though the score said 27-3, it wasn't like, Steve, you mentioned earlier, that the Browns were completely, a wreck. There were just things that happened. So I like the Browns' chances. Steve?
Well, the one thing Kevin Stefanski doesn't have to worry about, he doesn't have to oversee the defense. He just lets Jim Schwartz do his thing. He doesn't have to oversee the special teams, which I think is still number one in efficiency in the NFL because Bubba Ventrone's doing his thing. What impressed me against the Cardinals, two things. On the first Browns field goal, the defense committed a penalty, and Kevin Stefanski didn't take the penalty. He kept the points. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah,
and another thing, after the game was over, even though the running game really wasn't that efficient, I think they averaged like 2.8 yards a carry. He ran the ball 40 times and passed the ball 30 times. I'm
Now,
like, okay.
now,
He
Steve,
kept
the only one-
running the
now,
ball.
I just have a question, an observation on that play when you talked on the fourth down, them taking the points. When they did that, and I was in the stadium and I wasn't privy to what was going on the TV, but I thought on that fourth down, it was like a 4th and 11 or 4th and 12. And then
It was a little closer than that, but still in the
so then
past.
still it would have been like a 4th or 6th, 4th or 5
He
or
would have
something.
thought
So,
about it. He would have thought about it.
yeah. Oh, I
But he
remember
didn't even
last year
hesitate.
and the year before, my God, it was like one of those running things in the game when you were there at the stadium. It's like, oh God, he's going to go for it again on 4th down. What the
he's gonna
hell?
go
Like,
for it.
come on, like, stop, just take the
Well,
points.
especially, we had the next Justin Tucker ready to kick a sure thing field goal, and we wouldn't do it. That was Stefanski's fault.
Yeah.
Elliot, final thoughts on the game Sunday.
Well, I would predict that it's probably going to be lost by one of the defense or one of the offensive units, either Baltimore's or Cleveland's. Not, going to be won by the offensive unit.
I tell you, here's my bold prediction. I think the Browns are going to get helped out in this game. They're going to win the turnover battle. They're going to get some sort of pick six or something that's going to put him, in a prime position. I think Myles Garrett could get a strip sack or two, deflect a pass or two. Maybe for a third week in a row, we get a helmet deflection that goes the positive way. That would be one hell of a record, right? We not only had 1, 2, but let's go for the third. So I'm excited. Yeah, Elliot.
You want me to
Steve?
give you another weird stat?
Love
Under
it.
Stefanski, the Browns are 14-2 when they don't turn the ball over.
Wow.
That doesn't sound weird at all.
No. And they didn't turn the ball over last week. So let's pray to
Last
God.
2 weeks.
You know, you think about it. I mean, go back to the Pittsburgh game with Deshaun. I mean, my God, that game could not have started out any worse for the Browns. I mean, he
I
threw
know.
pick 6 to start. Anyway, all right. Final takes. Who have I not hit? Joel, have you any final thoughts?
So this is going to make you all just like want to fall over dead. I think Jerome Ford will have a good game.
Wow.
Who would have guessed?
And I'm going to say this because I think I trust in Kevin Stefanski to be smarter than the average NFL coach and understand that you can't give this guy the ball on first down. But the Ravens defense is susceptible to power plays, right? They're built to stop outside zone plays. So if you're not running the outside zone plays and you're forcing them to stop powers when you pull Bitonio and get to hit an outside linebacker instead of a defensive end, you can get people that gives Jerome Ford a defined hole that he can run through and run fast through. So if they use him in that way, he could have a big game.
Okay. I like it. I like it.
right.
Guys, I want to, again, just promote everybody here and say thank you for being here on the Fanatical Elves show. We've reached an hour, which is awesome. We had a lot to talk about. Thank you for tuning in on Apple and Spotify. We got Sam, our young and rising superstar podcaster down there in Dallas, who's bringing it every week with the Browns breakdown. Sam, where can people find you?
Basically everywhere except for Apple, because I don't use Apple products and I don't want to try and figure out how to do that.
Well, we got you on Apple with our Fanatical Elfz network.
Oh,
So you're
on your
stuff. You're out there with us, man.
Everywhere. Yeah,
you're everywhere. Yeah, we enjoy all of your family and friends downloading our shows. Spread the love. Find some more Browns fans. Convert them, man. Sam, you got to convert them down there in Dallas. Tell them that they're following the wrong teams and they're following baseball teams that are cheaters. Okay. Thanks, Sam. Joel brings it every week with the what the elf was that, like what the elf was that. Brownie acts with the Village Elliott up there, and a surprise appearance tonight on the Fanatical Elfz show. Thank you, Joel. Where can the people find you again?
On that thing called X. Yeah. At the left guard. I will say that Elliot and I have really hit our stride on the Cleveland Brownie X. I mean, I think we finally got that all together, figured out what we are and what we're about, and we really kind of gotten a good little debate show going on. He brings the analytics, I bring the football, and
it was a great conversation. I forget what you really got engaged in the show earlier today. I would encourage everybody to tune in to that. Steve Gill down there in Nashville, Tennessee. He's always bringing that outside Cleveland perspective because he's a Browns backer and he knows what Browns fans are feeling and outside of the city of Cleveland. And he's bringing the Dog Pound South show on every we have it on running on Mondays, and oftentimes he's part of our pre and post game show. How can people find you? And Steve's he's always constantly sharing. Follow this guy on the X and everywhere else because he has and he writes Cleveland Sports Talk. Steve, where can we find you?
I refuse to call it X, so it's going to be Twitter at Seatown Thug. Also, like you said, I write for ClevelandSportsTalk.com. Also, you can find me on that ancient device called Facebook. Also, where I do my blog every Monday as well as my podcast, dogpoundsouth.net. And like you said, I'm always willing to do a pregame and a postgame show. So
we love it. And Steve has run a few shows on his own here on the beyond just the Dog Pound South. So I appreciate all your help with that. We also have the Village Elliott, who is the Oracle Speaks host now. Where can we we've got some we're sharing out here. A second. I
was a little worried there for a minute.
Yeah. Where can we find you before we talk about happy birthday to Odell Beckham Jr.?
Happy birthday, Odell Beckham Jr. And Kim Kardashian attended his party, and hopefully she'll attend the football game because the legend is that she's bad luck when she attends the sporting events of her boyfriends. So we'll see
She's
if
the
that holds true.
anti-Taylor Swift.
Yes, there you go. The anti-Swift.
We should have a Kardashian and Taylor Swift show or something like oh my God.
I'm all over it, man.
Let's
Absolutely.
choose a celebrity.
You do not want to get the Swifties mad at you, John.
They won't be
don't
mad.
want to
They
go
won't be
down
mad.
that
They will
road.
love it. They will love me for it. It'll be great. But anyway, I'm at TH Village Elliot on Twitter. That would be just fine. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Next time I'll do the Swifties, and
I'd love to hear that on your Oracle Speaks. I'm going to tune into that. Hey guys, thanks for joining us here on the Fanatical Elfz Network on Thursday night. We appreciate you. Enjoy your rest of your week. Let's hope the Browns get out there, play tough, play as hard as they can, and come away with a big win Sunday. We'll be having a pregame show. Some of us will be on that. We'll hopefully have a really good postgame victory Monday show. So tune in the rest of the week. I'll have my Johnny Cleveland podcast coming up tomorrow and the Browns Blitz with Rod Bloom tomorrow as well. Take care, everybody. Have a good night and go Brownies. Go Browns.
Go Browns.
Go Browns. Go Browns. Oh, I got to find my music. Where's my music? Okay, bye.